There's a lot around that and a lot that comes into creating the mission and creating the core values and things like that. But, our mission is really to do best in class work and then use the profits to reinvest in client success, employee success in the community. And that to me just gets me excited every single day because it gets me out of bed. The better I do, the more I get to give to our employees, the more I get to invest in software, extra things that we can do to clients where we're just giving them, benefits and add-ons. And then if we completely do fantastic, have great profit, we get to do like we did last year, which was give back, essentially over $250,000 to the community, to pro bono clients, and to really help these causes that we care about.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Having a great culture isn't something that just happens. In fact, I believe you've got to be very deliberate about your culture. And as a leader, you've got to be intentional about how people work together, how they communicate. Your culture is such a critical part to that employee experience, whether people will innovate, whether they will feel empowered, whether they will be creative. It all comes down to how they feel about the culture and the people they work with. Now, you as a leader can shape that, but I do believe that we've got to be deliberate about our culture. Our guest today is John Lincoln. John is the co-founder of Ignite Visibility. They were a 3-time Inc. company. They were most recently on the Inc. list at 1103. They have over 10 million in revenue, 90 employees. I give you all that background because they're not a small company, and they understand in order for their employees to feel the sense of challenge and creativity, they've got to have a great culture. Today, we talk about some of the elements of that. We look at the foundational pieces, and they talk about how those work and play. We also talk about a little bit about how John has been leveling up as a coach. His investments he's made that have made the most sense for him. You might not be surprised, but I'll let you listen to the interview to tell you the whole truth. Well, when you think about leadership, I want you to think about Growth Think Tank. When you think about growth, I want you to think about us because we help companies grow. Make sure you share this podcast with someone that you know would appreciate it. Now, here's the interview with John. John, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on today, Gene.
Excited to have you on the podcast. We're going to talk a lot about the leadership and culture that makes fast growth possible. I would like to understand your company. So tell us a little bit about Ignite Visibility.
We're a digital marketing agency based in San Diego, California. There's about 90 full-time employees, and we offer a variety of different services to help people hit their online goals: SEO, paid media, conversion rate optimization, email marketing. Manage about 50 million in paid media. And, the whole company is just built on strategy, forecast, project plan, timelines, and helping people hit their goals through digital marketing.
Well, we definitely want to hit our goals. So I appreciate you being here. I know that you have a big team behind you, and you said that was on purpose. Tell us a little bit more, because I know the industry average for many of your competitors and your peers, and you've got probably at least 50% more employees given your revenue.
Yeah, I think it all depends on the type of agency that you're looking at. So, but frankly, one of the reasons we started the company was 7 years ago as a director at another company. I had 30 clients, all paying, all $250,000 million clients, and it was a lot. And I just knew if we had extra staff and we could really over deliver for the clients, we could make more room, a better work environment, we could grow accounts, better service the clients. So we've always worked very, very hard to make sure that we've got plenty of staff here. And I think the staff really appreciates that as well.
Well, of course they do, because if they're stretched too thin, it's never any time to be creative and maybe even try new things. So having extra people there, maybe it cuts into your margin a little bit, but it also cuts into the value that you're creating for your clients.
It does, yeah. And so, it's really been, I think it's a big mistake agencies make. For us, our new client acquisition strategy, it's, yeah, sure, we get, tons of prospects who come in every month, but what I've found is if you work really hard on one client, they're probably going to send you 3 or 4 more. It could be their own business lines, it could be peers, it could be friends and family. And so what we really like to do is get one client in, just really do a fantastic job on proof of concept. And then before you know it, you're working on 5 different companies for them, and you've built a nice little team around all their business needs. So that's something that I think works pretty well.
Well, you've been on the Inc. list 3 years running. You've gotten it to, over 10 million. Won't get the specifics until you're ready to announce that. But when you talked about, what does it take to get there in the research that we were looking at this Ignite Visibility around, you talked about the importance of culture. So what is culture to you that you can share?
Yeah, I think every company has kind of like a heart to it. It's got, a vibe. It's got, a reason for being. And for us and in most companies, I think it all kind of starts with a mission. And, there's a lot around that and a lot that comes into creating the mission and creating the core values and things like that. But, our mission is really to do best in class work and then use the profits to reinvest in client success, employee success in the community. And that to me just gets me excited every single day because it gets me out of bed. The better I do, the more I get to give to our employees, the more I get to invest in software, extra things that we can do to clients where we're just giving them, benefits and add-ons. And then if we completely do fantastic, have great profit, we get to do like what we did last year, which was give back, essentially over $250,000 to the community, to pro bono clients, and to really help these causes that we care about. So it makes it more about just running a digital marketing agency, getting clicks and conversions for sometimes mid to large brands, which we care about as well, obviously, but it makes it a little bit more full circle and kind of touches on people's lives as well.
Hold on. John just said it all starts with mission. Have you thought about how important the mission is to the company? When you think about the mission of the business, it's not just to make money. Your mission has to be something that aligns people together, or else you're missing that opportunity. Your mission has to be something as a North Star for the company so that you know where you're going as a team, not just something you've made up in your head and you expect everyone just to do the work along that journey. You really want to engage people to be a part of that mission, invite them on it with you. Back to John. So if it starts with mission, where do you take it from there when you think about, really being deliberate about your culture?
Yeah, I think you've got to map out, what are the 3 to 10 things that really define you? For us, it's being first to market, being the most innovative company out there, being incredibly first to market. It's about, making sure that people are heard. It's about being also humble at the same time, realizing that none of us are as smart as all of us. So we've got, 10 core values. And, I think it's just important that you map those out and that you reiterate those on a consistent basis to the entire company, and you reward people for doing a good job, around them.
Now you said a big word in there, and I want to make sure we get really specific about what does consistent with your values mean?
Yeah, so one of the things I learned when I was at the Inc. 5000 2 years ago, the first time I was there 2 or 3 years ago, but I was talking to somebody who had a much bigger company than me. And he mentioned that, nothing in big companies changes quickly, and not even changes, but just anything you want to get in front of somebody, you've got to, and get in their head, you've got to consistently reiterate. And so what we found is anything that we really care about, we've got to bring it up a lot of times. And we've got to kind of, because if somebody starts and you say one thing to them in an onboarding session, and then a year goes by, they're not going to think about it. Even if a week goes by, they're not going to think about it. So in every kind of company meeting, every all hands, it's important to continue to reiterate, why are we here? What are the things we care about? What do we value? And, those things don't create themselves. And if you kind of let them create themselves, it can run wild. You want to be more deliberate with the direction of where you want to take the company. And people really appreciate that.
Well, when you think about the values, you're probably rewarding by them. You're probably selecting and hiring by them. You're probably developing people through their employee review process. You probably exit people on values. It's really amazing where companies just don't put that much emphasis on living the day-to-day What's been the real value of having these 10 values that everyone knows and the consistency you bring to the organization?
I think the main thing is, you've got to map everything that's important to the client, everything that's important to the employee, everything that's important to leadership, all of it should really be baked around, what your main goals are for just creating an amazing, fantastic place to work and hitting any type of growth goals and anything that ties back to your personal mission, right? And then that philanthropy. So, that's the main thing. It's just important that every single time, you have a meeting, you bring that up. And, and some of the things you mentioned are just fantastic. So I hope your listeners take note of that. If you can bake that into your hiring process, your review process, your exit process, every single step, that goes a really, really long way, because those are other fantastic ways to reiterate them.
Hold on for a second. John just said, what goals do you have to create an amazing company? We have a lot of goals around sales, maybe marketing, customer service, operations, creating new products. But what goals you have around creating an amazing company is a great question, because hopefully if you thought about that and you could really answer those in a meaningful way, then you have that dialed in. But if you can't answer it, or you have some kind of pat answers that you would say in that area, then you really need to put a little bit more effort and time into think about the goals that would make this an amazing company. And it's not just your retention rate. It's not just your engagement rate, but we create a survey that allow your company to figure out how your team is aligned. Do you know where you score on that? That could be an interesting assessment if you have. If you want to find out more information about that, make sure you go to genehammett.com/assessment. And we call this the growth assessment. It is something that we could share with you, and you can get some insight behind it. Find out more information about that at genehammett.com/assessment. Now back to the interview with John. John, this whole episode is around creating a culture that is deliberate. I want to make sure we look at what you think about leadership inside that culture, because it's not enough to just have people that communicate well together. But what are your thoughts around leadership that really drive the growth of your company?
So on leadership, there's a lot that goes to that. There's certain times when leaders have to be able to step up, have to be able to put on, a smile, have to be able to do the extra work to lead by example and show that they really care about, the organization. They've got to be constantly working and learning. And they have to be able to, I think, most importantly, continue to show people the vision of where the company is going on the overall level, the department level, and then all the way down to the individual level. I find it's really important that leaders can paint a clear picture, keep people excited, keep it positive, make it so that people are excited to come to work, every single day. And there's a lot around leadership that we can get into, but those are some of the few things that I think, matter quite a bit.
One of the things that I love talking to Inc. 5000, and hopefully I don't surprise you by this, but one of the things that they have that a lot of companies don't get to kind of experience, which is a very high retention rate. I would imagine that what you've created, that and the attention you put on that employee experience has created a high retention rate. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we've worked really hard on that. And we do have a pretty good retention rate. And, one of the things I think is just people love being a part of the growth, they're excited about it. They like the direction we're headed. I tell our employees, our goal is to have you be, some of the highest paid, if not the highest paid people in the entire industry. It creates benefits for them to, manage, other people and things like that. But I'll tell you, the thing that I've found that people care about the most out of all of the things that we've surveyed is really ongoing education and personal development. So one of the things that we've done that people really like is we do these Innovation Fridays, where every single Friday we have either a guest speaker come in or an industry expert, occasionally myself or some staff, and we teach them something, really, really cool about digital marketing. And in addition to that, we send them to a lot of events, and, we're always working on our own internal training program. But, that really fascinated me. People want to learn. They want to be growing personally. They want to be getting a better education. They want to feel like they're not stagnant. And I'm like that myself. I care about that stuff a ton. I'm always, looking to learn. So that's one thing that I think has helped a lot with retention, that, and then also just surveying employees on a consistent basis, learning about their pain points, the things that, that would make this a great place to work from them, keeping them involved.
A lot of people, leaders that listen into here, I hear back from them, and they see that these things are important, but they're also, they put up this barrier that it's expensive to give that kind of training. But the way you just described it, it's probably not costing you a lot other than a little bit of time to allow them to it. But the payoff in the end is they have the skills to actually deliver on the promises that your sales team makes. Do you spend a lot of money on employee development?
So to have like a speaker come in, sometimes they'll do it for free. Sometimes they'll do it for, a few $1,000s, something like that. It all kind of depends. But yeah, we do spend a pretty good amount, actually. I would say, it's somewhere between, it's somewhere around $100,000 probably a year that we spend on that, which is, a good amount of money. And I think it's well worth it. I mean, at any point in time, you send somebody to an event, they get to have an experience, they come back with all this energy and great ideas for the company. It's really, really powerful. So we invest quite a bit in it, and we're going to continue to do that. I think it's just a really important perk.
If you happen to be listening to this on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you like this content, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification button so you don't miss an episode. We'd love to help you be the best leader you can be. Now back to the episode. Well, as the old saying says, you can not invest in people and they can stick around.
Yeah.
You don't get to get the benefits of the upside. John, I want to switch gears just a little bit here. Being on the fast growth has probably taught you a lot about your own personal leadership. How do you continue to level up as a leader?
Yeah. So, I'm constantly studying, constantly learning, constantly pushing myself to learn from other great leaders and people in history. So, I mean, I just love finding people who have already achieved what I'm looking to achieve, and then, reading all the stuff that they've done and, following them and things like that. In addition to that, I'm a part of a couple different groups, a couple different masterminds and, CEO groups and things like that. And those are really, really helpful. So, for one of them in particular, we meet, a couple times a quarter, and we're always plotting the 90-day roadmap, working together. And many of these people are much more successful than I. So by getting resources from them, by meeting with them, it's really great. I also work with a CEO coach who has launched one of the most successful agencies in the history of San Diego. I meet with him every couple weeks. But I'll tell you that is not something I've always had. Those things did not take place until a couple of years ago. And before that, I was constantly searching, trying to figure out things on my own, bugging my wife all the time for advice, which she is the smartest woman, I've ever met. I love her, but, she was a lot for her. So I would highly recommend, everybody go out there and seek a fantastic mentor and get a part of at least one group. That can be really helpful.
I want to ask you a question about that, because I have seen the value in my own career for over 20 years of having a coach. And in fact, it's one of the most critical things for my company getting to about 5 or 6 million is having someone challenge my thinking with questions. And I remember one of the questions, if you can remember something 18 years ago, it's a pretty powerful question, right? But I had a lot of problems in the business. I felt more like a firefighter than I did a CEO. And she goes, who are your most valuable, profitable customers? And I couldn't answer that. Like, I just had a bunch of business and a bunch of clients. And so, when you think about hiring a CEO coach, I don't need to know the exact numbers, but is there an ROI to it for you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's an ROI. I mean, this person has been at companies, 10 times the size, and, figuring out organizational structure, figuring out how to bring on bigger clients and service them better. I mean, I have to say, I mean, the ROI there, had I not had somebody to guide me in the right direction, you've got to think it attributed to another 30 or 40% of growth, for the company, just helping to level up. And it's just a big mistake. Nobody knows everything, and you have to be willing to reach out. You have to be willing to find somebody who's done it before, somebody who's smarter than you. So I agree with you 100%. It's something that everybody needs.
Well, John, I really appreciate you being here, sharing your wisdom on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Another great interview here on the podcast. We talked about culture today. Now, culture and leadership go hand in hand because leadership has to drive and shape culture. My question is, how are you leveling up as a CEO? Are you truly investing in yourself? Are you putting in the work and time? Are you really working on being a better leader, or just looking at the project and maybe increasing sales and the metrics? Those things are important. But your ability to lead others, your ability to create more leaders is critical for the continued success of the company. I know this because I've studied this. I've seen it with my own companies, but creating more leaders is your job. If you ever want to talk about empowerment, the sense of ownership and transparency that is necessary, and maybe even challenging the leadership model that you have, make sure you reach out to me, Gene Hammett. I'd love to get to know you. When you think about growth, you think about leadership, think about Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.